Rent. Welcome back to Give Me Rent, everyone. This is Dylan. I'm joined by Noah and Brandon.
Baba Booey.
We are going to be discussing our favorite shots and scenes in superhero movies. We've been working on a little bit of an edit of compiling of our favorite shots and sequences from superhero movies.
Yeah, I mean, it's just gonna really be individual, like quick shots, is what we're thinking. Just the quick. It doesn't even necessarily have to be from like a good movie. If it's a great image, that's
Yeah.
what we're looking for.
Yeah,
Or
I
even
wanted to. I want this video to kind of just encapsulate the whole myth of the superhero and kind
Yeah,
of just.
or
Epic
even
shots
Yeah, there's
and
epic
even
shots.
jokes
some of
and
the
character.
even some of the TV shows. Honestly, like some of them have had some of the greatest scenes that really encapsulate certain characters, whether it's from DC, Marvel, Image Comics, such as even Invincible and Spawn. I mean,
Yeah.
the
And it's
media
no
of
it's no
superheroes.
secret that we've had the most superhero content probably, ever in the last 20 years. It's been in just, they're pumping out project after project. So,
So you're right. I mean, this is really about picking the images that truly stand out, in this genre. I guess we're gonna think back to even further than just the last 20 years. Let's like go back to I guess the 60s, the 70s. And also, what do you guys want to start with? I think maybe DC's had their head in the game first.
with the class, they kind of started it all with the original Superman, well, at least the
So I think that's a good place to start. Let's start back in 1978 with Superman.
Yeah, honestly,
Yeah,
let's think about it. I mean, this movie is filled with iconic scenes.
yeah, it is.
That's no doubt. I also think this movie holds up unbelievably nowadays. It's so
Yeah,
good.
Well, just if we want to get a shot, for this video and think of just the best of this movie, which is a decently long film, especially for the time that it came out. It was kind of an epic. It starts 30 minutes, just telling his backstory. There are some great shots in there, but if you're thinking iconic images of just Superman himself, I'd say the final shot of the film, him flying in space and smiling, that might be my personal favorite. I think is the most, I guess, epic of this film.
yeah. I totally agree. The other thing I want to talk about with the '60s, because yes, Superman big success, but
Even further, please?
let's talk about. I want to talk about Adam West. So for the campy Batman, that was obviously that time period versus what we are used to. There was a lot of iconic scenes, whether it was him with some of his corny, moments, whether it was him dancing, whatever. But like one of the most iconic moments for that campy Batman to me, and it was still a great shot considering the time period, was actually him using the shark repellent on the
It's
helicopter.
classic. Yeah,
Like
I
it
think that's
just
got to go in.
I mean, I
Got to
wouldn't say it's the most epic shot, but it is a memorable shot.
iconic, man.
It's such an iconic, and it really presented what that character was. So campy and goofy that he literally had everything in his
Yeah.
utility belt. That's what that Batman was. It's almost like Batman the Brave and the Bold was heavily inspired by him, and it goes to show in both sorts of media, the animated show and now live action with Adam West. It's that shot to me really encapsulates his
Well,
character.
yeah, I mean, it really encapsulates that era of Batman before he was the Dark Knight, and I think there's a reason it really has kind of. I wouldn't say it stood the test of time, but there's a reason it's still very much iconic and known.
Hmm.
Maybe not in the general media. The younger generation might not
Adam
know
West's
him.
Batman is the most. Yeah, I feel like distinct of all the Batmans we've gotten. He's kind of that goofy version of Batman we've never really gotten.
I think a good shot from Batman the movie. Not we're not talking about the show. We're just talking about I'm talking about the Adam West film. When he's holding the bomb.
Yeah.
Yep.
Some days you can't get rid of a bomb, or some days you just can't get rid of a bomb. That image is engraved in my brain because I feel like I watched that movie so much when I was little.
Yeah, for real.
It's definitely that's another.
I mean,
iconic
if we're
moment.
taking shots of the show too, Batman and the Joker surfing with one another is just an
Yeah,
all
that's
timer.
And then now, if you're going to talk about the show, there's definitely a bunch. I mean, Joker
There's so many
taking off
good
his
moments.
mask, the mask
Yeah.
that got referenced eventually in The Dark Knight.
That is a
moment.
iconic scene for sure.
It's honestly, yeah.
I think we should stay on Batman real quick though. Let's think about '89 real quick, because how many amazing shots are there in '89? I mean,
There's
first of
too
all,
many to count.
what that did for the genre and just the character of Batman is, it's, there's no point beating a dead horse, but that movie is
A very
insane.
interesting thing about the first Burton film is there's an extensive use of. I guess I would call it a cartoon Batman. Like there's a bunch of shots where Batman is just straight up. It's a cartoon, or whatever it was. It's not Michael Keaton.
I think you're really thinking of the shots with the matte paintings where it's kind of mixing him into it, where they didn't
Yes.
really have a choice.
But I don't know how they captured the end of the film. You know, the final bat signal shot.
I love that shot so much, but it's
Yeah.
so funny to me that I honestly think we should include it in the video. But look at that shot. Batman has short ears. He looks like he's standing on like this weird, just like it's a weird shot, but it's a great shot.
Yeah.
You know, I was lucky enough to see 89 recently in Dolby Atmos, and the image was, I get that last image really was so vibrant, and you're right, the ears aren't completely accurate in it,
Weird.
but there's a reason that image has really, that's like, in Batman imagery, image is very much known amongst the fans. It is really that has stood the test of time.
I also got to, if we're thinking about 89 still, like, first of all, you got to talk about just the opening sequence of him proclaiming that he is Batman. Like,
Yeah.
that is so iconic.
shot of him holding the goon is very.
It's so great. And also, my favorite shot in the movie, I think a lot of other people's favorite shot in the movie too, is when the Joker is questioning Vicky Vale about Batman, and then all of a sudden, the man himself crashes through the ceiling, and it's genuinely, to this day, maybe still the coolest shot we've ever gotten to Batman. It is so cool.
Well, I'd say, you know, we're jumping, you know, way ahead here, but that shot is, I don't know if it was meant to be a reference, but I think of the shot in Batman Begins where he's jumping down in the Rachel rescue.
Yep.
It
Exactly.
looks very similar, but I would say, like, they kind of achieved it better in Batman in that shot in Begins. Obviously, it's slicker. You don't see a wire.
Yeah, but there's something about even him using the wire in the original, because like we know he's using theatrics to get his job done. I don't know, I love
Difference is too in '89. You know, he's crashing through the glass. There's something about that is so iconic. I mean, the Joker looks up, crash. Like it's it's a different scene. I just think that visually there was a reference there. You know, obviously they captured Batman gliding very interesting. Especially in the Burton movies. Let's move to Returns, because there's some crazy comic book imagery in that film. Brandon, what springs to mind when you're thinking of Batman Returns? Because it's such a bizarre film in this genre. There's a lot of not superhero stuff for sure.
Yeah, no, there definitely is. You know what's weird? A lot of the shots I think of, because I'm going to be completely transparent. It has been a long time since I've seen the movie, very long time, but it always will remind me a little bit of Batman the Animated Series with some of those shots, and I always think of Danny DeVito's Penguin, like I really do. And
I always
some
think
of
of the
his
cemetery
shots.
stuff with him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
When I first think of the film, there's obviously some great work from Elfman in those scenes too.
I actually think as well, something Returns does that I think it's really interesting, especially compared to the first one, is it really delves into Bruce Wayne a lot. And I would argue that Bruce Wayne is in it more than Batman, which, you know, is sometimes the case with the movies. But the shot of him at the beginning of the movie, just sitting, it's also a crazy meme now, so you guys know exactly the shot I'm talking about, of him sitting in his room and the bat signal hits him. I love that shot. That is awesome. That is actually such a great shot. They knew they were cooking with that one too.
Even though the house was way different than the first film, that scene is obviously one of the most iconic from Returns.
Yeah,
But
it's awesome.
I will say you can't mention Returns without mentioning Catwoman herself. I mean, I think, you know, we mentioned Penguin. There's a lot of iconic stuff with him in the cemetery, and obviously the stuff where he runs for mayor. It's a crazy setting for that like morbid type character to be in. So there's some obviously interesting stuff there, but also Catwoman, the gothic stuff they did with her, specifically Selena Kyle's apartment as well when she returns as Catwoman. There's some very interesting shots there. I think specifically the Hell Here shot is a crazy shot from the Burton.
Great shot. It's also a very dark shot. You know, that movie got a lot of flack for being super dark, but I love it for how dark it is. But also just the shot of Catwoman in the window in front of Shrek's is, you know, to this day insanely iconic. And that's I would be actually kind of sad if we didn't include that, because I think that's a really great shot.
Yeah, no, I for sure. It's funny. I'm trying to think of like what is the best shot of Batman himself in Returns.
In Returns, I would actually argue the shot of him shooting his grapnel or whatever you want to call at Selena Kyle, the guy that's holding Selena Kyle in the beginning, is such a cool shot of him. Just like
Yeah.
kind of his silhouette of him shooting the
No,
gun.
but that's
just
also
awesome.
an image that is just I feel like is used a lot like for that film.
Yeah, no, but it's really cool.
Yeah, no, because that's honestly one of the coolest shots of him.
Also,
as Batman.
I am kind of tempted for us to include him smiling at the guy that he puts dynamite on and kills him.
Nah, that's
I just wanted to mention that because that is just the
No,
worst
these
Batman
aren't
murder.
all for inclusion. And there's a reason I'm mentioning Penguin and Catwoman as well. I'm just talking about there's a lot of interesting shots in this film.
Yeah, no, it's really
Not none of these are really going to make the video that we're making, but I think it's just worthy to note. Yeah, that was such a bizarre movie, which led them to the Schumacher films, which I will say have some very interesting stuff going on visually.
They do. Once we get to Val Kilmer and Clooney, I'm gonna be so honest, just because of how much I did enjoy those movies. That it just there's shots that are like memorable, but they aren't good, aesthetically pleasing shots. Like
Well, I'm not even going to say it's a great shot, but I do immediately think of the end of both of those movies where the first one ends with him and Robin running with the symbol.
Yeah.
And then the next one ends with the three of them, him, Batgirl, and Robin running. Those aren't good shots per se, but they are very memorable. At least shots. I think back to, watching those movies, I think of those scenes for sure. But I also think, the way they represented Gotham in those movies was so bizarre and interesting that there's definitely some. I'm not going to say there's good shots, but there's some interesting stuff going on, especially with like the giant, I guess, statues that kind of hold up certain buildings. Like even in Batman and Robin, they're literally riding bikes on them and stuff. It's such a bizarre representation of Gotham. Such a big
No
change
doubt.
from Burton stuff.
It's interesting. It's interesting enough to note, but I think when we're thinking, creme de la creme of DC movies, there's still the
gotta get to the
pinnacle.
Nolan trilogy.
You got to get to the Nolan trilogy, and you got to get to the very best one, which is The Dark Knight. I mean, The Dark Knight, especially sequence-wise, I think is yet to be topped comic book wise.
Yeah, it's-
in any respect.
I want to throw a little bit of credit towards some of the best scenes I've seen in any superhero movie, and I'm gonna throw it at Batman Sub-Zero. And a lot of people do not understand the way that they.
Oh, so
really-
we're going back. We're going back to animated. Right
I
here.
want to give credit where it's due. It really captured who Victor Freeze is in a lot
Well, yeah,
of those
we're
scenes.
getting lost.
And
You're right because I'm thinking just live action. So you're talking everything.
everything because and this
So
is the
we
movie
didn't
that-
even mention Phantasm as well.
100%. Well, I was going to bring up Phantasm, and the biggest scene is Bruce having a flashback of him going to the cemetery, right? And him complaining that he wants to be happy, but he obviously has to let her go, and he doesn't know what to do because he's like, I'm finally happy now. He's crying at his parents', their headstone, right? There was a lot of scenes, him looking at the mask right before he puts on to become Batman. There's a lot of defining
I'd say that
moments throughout
shot,
the entire film.
of him holding the mask.
Yeah, that's what I'm
before
talking
he
about.
puts
when
it
he's
on. Of
looking
course,
right
yeah,
at
yeah,
him.
yeah. I think that's one of my favorites in any Batman film.
My favorite in any Batman film from a villain's perspective will be Victor Freeze on his hands and knees looking at Nora.
Yeah, I
That-
mean, Sub-Zero is definitely a film that's not talked about enough.
Yeah, and
It's
if
not.
you're gonna talk about Sub-Zero, just the whole end sequence of Batman trying to save Freeze.
Freeze, yep.
His sympathy towards Freeze, especially in the animated series and how they revamped him, is just so perfect. It's such a perfect way to encapsulate. Batman truly does care about his villains, especially if they have a sympathetic cause. He
And in
does
Batman
care.
Beyond, he did too when he returned. When
Well, I
Freeze
think
returned.
back to certain shots, of that, even in the Justice League animated series of Batman, there's certain shots of him being like compassionate that are very interesting.
Him with what's her name? Was it Ace of the Royal Flush
Yeah,
Gang?
I specifically think of the girl, and the image of them together on the swing set.
Right before she dies, and it is actually one of the most
Yeah.
Batman things. She goes, "I read your mind. You're not going to use Waller's weapon on me." He
Well, yeah,
never had
it's-
the
it's-
plan to.
It's interesting, when we're thinking best shots, it's not just the epic moments; it's the moments that make us love these characters.
No, 100%. That's what I was trying to say when we were starting the video. Is a lot of these moments define what a superhero will be or what their
Yeah.
character is. And another one that I want to bring up, just animated. I'm not trying to get off track, but honestly, in Teen Titans, when Starfire goes in the future, and her seeing how Nightwing is still, on his own, but he's doing
That's
it
a
for
great
the
shout.
sake of being her.
Yeah,
like,
no, I kind of
will throw
like that
out
shout
there.
because that's again not talked about enough because.
And DC
There's
does
so
own the
much.
rights to a lot of things, but it's the same thing as Under the Red Hood, the flashback of Jason as a kid, and this defining the moment of actually no, screw it. him kicking the door open with Joker there and having his entire dialogue with Batman on why he's upset and why he's getting
I would
revenge and
argue
why he's
for
getting
this,
redemption.
both great scenes, but I would argue for this video, I think your first suggestion there of him enthusiastic as Robin is probably the better inclusion because that is a really great scene, a really sad scene
100%.
too.
It's so upsetting. It crushes it
That
because
ends the film. That's the
Jason
end of the
Todd,
film.
everybody knows, like, as Robin, we're not going to count Jason Todd, like, as Red Hood. If we're talking about all
If he's a
just
superhero-
Robins, he was not a good Robin. He was a great redemption when he becomes Red Hood. But he was a bad Robin, and it shows you how he went from being such a caring boy who, was taken off the streets and he was so excited to be Robin, and then you go to the next sequence where he's a teenager and he's a hothead. And obviously, price pays and he dies. It really, in those couple of seconds in between scenes, it really shows you, holy crap, like, this is the defining moment of Jason Todd becoming the character we love now as Red Hood. And those are some of the greatest and
character.
saddest shots.
Yeah, I think honestly, let's keep before we head back to the Nolan trilogy. Let's really keep it with the animated right now, because there's certain shots even that
You
of
wanna hear
not.
another-
Let's move away from Batman for a
You
second.
want to hear,
Let-
no, well, you want to hear a great shout right now?
yeah,
Johnny Quick's death in Crisis on Two Earths.
definitely an interesting moment. But what you got me thinking with before with the Sub-Zero and the Phantasm, I'm trying to think. The DC animated universe. That I feel like that gave us some of the most iconic imagery of DC of all time.
Yeah. Terry
What-
McGinnis's redemption in
Well,
Batman
there's
Beyond.
certain shots. I'd say, okay, you mentioned Batman Beyond, and there's certain moments, especially in that pilot of it, where Bruce, having a heart attack and him taking the mask off.
And
The
having
Never
a-
Again sequence is just devastating,
Oh, 100%.
absolutely devastating moment, but also a crazy defining character moment for Bruce.
Yeah.
I kind of really like how they took that universe. It's very interesting. There's a lot of interpretations of where Batman's future goes, but I do really love Beyond because, the mission never really dies for him.
No.
I love Terry McGinnis. I think he's 100% the second best Batman.
I think
I
it's
agree.
actually wild. I often think about how much they really didn't hold back for that animated Batman universe. I mean, these were kid shows. Like, kids were watching this. This is a grown man with a vendetta against criminals, and he doesn't drop it.
Well, yeah, I was with Batman Beyond though specifically. I was going to delve into the fact that we got a PG-13 movie.
I wanted
With-
to bring up Tim Drake's transformation
Yes,
scene,
with
which
a
actually-
sequence that is just, I think, a big pivotal moment in just the Batman mythos. Obviously it wasn't referenced so much in the comics and stuff like that, but I think for Batman fans, this was a huge moment. I mean, the transformation of Tim Drake into Joker was so unexpected, but there's some crazy images from that sequence.
It is actually so disturbing seeing Joker dead. It is one of the craziest shots in that film. I will always say that Batman Beyond really redefined what the DCAU really was, because we have Joker in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. You have Mark Hamill's Joker throughout that entire universe, and this is the part where it's what really happens to Joker, why he is not a returning character, why he's not talked about like Bane and Mr. Freeze and all these other characters.
I
And
love them taking a very mature route with it. Obviously, it's still very comic booky and goofy, but I think that film really nailed. Obviously, it's a jump to say he survived and stuff, but it was a very interesting of bringing him into that world, kind of believably. I think that the shot. I love Bruce's face when he first comes back. I think that's for me a very memorable moment from that film.
Or Bruce with the Joker gas, him smiling, seeing Bruce finally
it's so
affected
creepy.
by something is actually one of the creepiest things. And I also want to shed some light on the transformation sequence of Tim Drake to Joker as an adult with the chip in him, how you physically see him change. That is one of the craziest things. It really hasn't happened in comic book.
If we ever made a villains video, this is the stuff that would get in there. This
Oh,
isn't going to get
Clayface.
into our current video.
Clayface in the DCAU of just in the Batman the Animated Series, him in the entire room, and he's trying to switch, and he's looking around at all the different TV
Yeah,
screens.
I mean, we could fill an entire video of just animated series clips,
Yeah,
like
100%.
with sequences
so
from it.
much.
I would argue they were on such a roll with that show that every single episode had an epic shot or amazing sequence in it. Just literally, especially in season one, like every episode.
All the shots of Gotham, all the paint, everything they did is some of the most aesthetically pleasing cities, surroundings, anything you want to call it, in superhero media. And I'm not saying that to glaze the DCU, but Bruce Timm's work is some of the best work in superhero media ever. And that's not even a bad take. It really is some of the best media we've ever gotten for superheroes. It defined how many 50 plus characters in that universe completely. And not on just like a surface level. Like
Yeah,
dove
I
deep
think,
into
there's
everybody.
another really iconic image from the DCAU. I would say, I mean, there's the Justice League themselves. Their formation. There's a lot of stuff in that pilot, but once you get to the end, the finale of Justice League, I'm more referencing Unlimited here. The
Yeah.
Darkseid and Superman fight is you
Oh,
got to mention that. It's a huge moment for the character of
I
Superman.
the craziest. Actually, you want to know my number one defining scene might be in animated superhero films, like completely. But
Is it from the DCAU?
yeah. So the beauty of the DCAU, right, is Batman's mission. It's brought up so many times. I want to talk about For the Man Who Has Everything. That episode specifically from Justice League Unlimited. So that's when Mongol gets the little, I forget the plant's name or whatever, the species, but it clings onto Superman and shows him the world that he's always wanted to have. So it's like Krypton alive. He has a
Oh,
family.
this is a great.
But
There's some great images in this
I don't
episode.
even want to talk about Superman. I want to talk about Bruce. Bruce gets it off Clark. It goes on to him. It starts showing him if his family won the fight in the alleyway and didn't die.
Oh, yeah,
And you
that's a
see
crazy
Bruce
moment.
smiling. So it is actually the saddest thing you could see because the thing he's always hoped for isn't more money, not kids, not to not be Batman. It's for his family to have won that fight in the alleyway. And it is
Yeah.
actually one of the saddest scenes of anything from Batman. And the moment they rip it off of him, he just goes right back into the fight, which really shows you how mentally tough the character really is. He was just shown
That's
his
fair.
greatest dream, and he just immediately went back into fight Mongol.
This might be a little controversial, but that's kind of a big reason I don't love the Nolan interpretation of Batman,
Yeah.
where it really is just his thing.
In a way, I kind of appreciate it for that too, though.
No, for sure.
Like-
But it's not a type of Batman that is very much all for the mission in a way. He is and he isn't. You know what I mean? He represented that very differently than we known him to.
Just because he gives up the mission at the end, not gives up the mission. Nolan took a more realistic approach where it's like a man physically cannot do this for his entire life, will not come close.
Oh, it's-
so
it's grounded in
if
realism.
he, at the end of The Dark Knight Rises, as he does, can give Gotham to a new generation of people that he trusts, he can live on and be okay. That's the only way. And he did that. So, and he was able to move on.
So it's actually no. But since you're mentioning that, like I will say, I very much have come around on it though, and I love. I mean, I'm gonna jump back to Nolan here. I kind of love the last shot of the trilogy where it's showing Robin potentially becoming. I don't know what he's gonna become in that universe, but
It doesn't even matter if he's, Batman, whatever. It's, again, to what I was saying before, it's just that point that Batman's mission does go on. He did start exactly what he wanted to do. He became a symbol.
Yeah.
Nolan took that approach where it was about that, and it's also about the character of Bruce being able to move on as well. Because Nolan took it, where Batman's a really traumatized dude. Like, he deserves to move on as well and actually live a normal life.
there was an instance where we got a film of John Constantine,
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves Constantine. It does exist, and they are trying to make a sequel. I think
liked
that film does have some very interesting stuff going on visually.
I did like it.
Specifically, the scene in the underworld where he's trying to get out. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people know that shot of the film.
Yeah, no, it's a very iconic actually shot. I've seen so many edits with it. I've seen a lot of times where people have like posted their review of the movie, and it'll definitely be a thumbnail or a little clip that
I mean,
always.
say
ends up
what you
in.
want about him as the character. Obviously, visually, he doesn't look like John Constantine,
No, not
but
at
he
all.
definitely really cared.
Yeah.
Like Keanu, isn't someone that is gonna just take on something. Like he was very interested in the character.
He cared enough to come back for a sequel.
I'd be intrigued in a second one.
He cares enough to, want to do it again. Literally.
Also, I hate Black Adam, but since we're talking about the hell characters that
come
deal with
on.
hell, well, no, Doctor Fate had some great scenes.
No, the suit was pretty cool.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not,
but
the movie sucked, but I'm only talking about Doctor Fate. I'm not talking about.
bro, man, yeah, no, it's fair. I mean, if we're mentioning like somewhat subpar movies, I mean, I will. Actually, no, that's not even. I was gonna say Shazam, but Loki, I kind of enjoyed the first Shazam. The second Shazam,
hasn't aged that well.
yeah, I think the first Shazam it still isn't that great, but it does have some pretty cool sequences, especially
like-
fun sequences. The shot of him jumping off the building and becoming Shazam. It's pretty cool.
That is actually something I would include in this video. That's a really cool.
Dr. Fate's best representation, like, probably will be Young Justice, but it doesn't even do him justice. Ironically, I know play words, but
In a way,
probably-
I'm kind of mad I'm really mad he was in Black Adam now.
Injustice is
They're gonna
probably
take a few years.
Injustice was probably the best representation we got of him, like, doing stuff,
Adam.
you know?
He's back.
It's wild. Yeah, actually crazy, just the state of it right now. But I will say, you know, to think about some other. I mean, I guess let's talk about the Nolan trilogy real quick before we talk about the current, because we're gonna get to the modern DC movies and potentially some other ones. So yeah, let's talk about what some of the best superhero content we've ever gotten, which is the Dark Knight trilogy, undoubtedly.
Let's start with Batman Begins because there's a clear jump there, especially in IMAX.
Yeah, that
went for the next two films. There's a giant jump in presentation of it. Yeah. The Dark Knight is just obviously one of the greatest shot comic book movies of all time. It's probably always going to be in the top 10. It did a lot for the genre. Like, it genuinely did. It was the first film of its time of its kind to be filmed like that.
And no pun intended, it's a really dark movie. A lot of the shots are dark, but it leans into that aesthetic of it being the night and Batman actually, being a creature of the night in a way. Like he operates at night.
What is your guys' favorite shot from the trilogy?
From the entire trilogy,
I'd
probably have to say Joker turning his back on Batman when he kind of does that little, he fakes him out with the bat cycle, and then the Joker turns around and you get the shot of both.
The hit me sequence.
The hit me sequence. That whole sequence right there.
It's actually my number. It's probably my number one. Honestly, it's gonna be Dark Knight Rises. The fight between Bane and Batman.
Yeah,
Really?
The back is pretty iconic.
Like,
That was a great scene.
It's crazy. We got such a realistic version of Bane, which is so hard to do. People don't understand, like, Bane is supposed to be this actual monster. And I just think the way they went for his approach looked great, and there were so many great shots and moments with that character, with Hardy's character. I loved it. And another scene I want to give, credit to that a lot of people don't is honestly Joker with a shotgun inside the 18-wheeler popping out. Like, that was a...
Well, that's a crazy quick, but it is a crazy shot.
It's a crazy shot, like how fast they did that, because you don't expect
one thing I always think of from this trilogy that's not even a shot involving, a very superhero type thing going on. It's when Bruce begins his journey up into the mountains. Yeah. I think also it's very, the Zimmer score there just completely makes it as iconic as it is. But that start of the journey,
going up the mountain,
there's a reason it's engraved in people's brains. They think it's the main Batman origin kind of. A lot of people consider it what happened. Him with the monks, and I think we're going to see references to that. In the new game coming out.
Yeah.
There's a reason that origin is still the test of time because it's probably the best representation of it we've gotten so far.
No doubt. And I honestly, I have been thinking about one shot that I definitely want to include in this video. So it's definitely, but there's a shot in The Dark Knight Rises. It's so quick too, but Batman goes out on patrol right about at dawn.
Yeah.
And you see him sort of in the sunlight, but half kind of dark.
Yeah.
And it's so cool. Like, it's such a dope shot of him, and it's such a different kind of shot of Batman, especially for that trilogy, because he's always shrouded in darkness in that trilogy. So to see him actually in light for once, it's cool, especially for Rises. It was a good time to do it.
Well, you're right, because it's funny. That is right before the Bane fight. It's right before he goes into the tunnel with Catwoman. It's a crazy dope sequence, because you're right. It's interesting that you see him, like, in the day in that movie, and it kind of works. Like, the ending's a little interesting, the fight, but I'd say for the most part they did a pretty good job of showing him, in the dawn.
Yeah, say what you want about the suit, because the suit definitely isn't my favorite bat suit, but he looks pretty dope fighting with all those cops at the end. Like, that's a really sick scene.
Dark Knight Rises has only gotten better with time. I think a lot of people really appreciate it now. But it is, it's really also because of how Nolan made those films.
The trilogy as a whole is phenomenal.
Yeah, I'd say Rises is messy. But even in that third act, you get some iconic Batman stuff. I mean, I wouldn't say there's a lot of shots that really, really stand out. But I'm going to think of the end of that film. I really think of the unveiling of the statue of Batman, which is a very big moment, just for that character. I mean, it's whenever they do a definitive conclusion to, Batman ending his career, it's always been so different. There's such wildly different takes on it. I think it also has to be mentioned, the Arkham trilogy had some great stuff in there too. Video games.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's some insane shots in that trilogy, which also ended with him, ending his career, which I'm mentioning it again in this video because I think that's always a bizarre thing. But people take it very differently whenever it happens, and it's always been kind of iconic and memorable.
True.
There's
That's
some
actually a good
crazy,
point.
you get some crazy images out of it, especially the end of night. Like we don't even know what was happening there still.
True.
I mean, maybe some people do, but we don't like to talk about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. But after the Nolan trilogy, you move on to the era of the DCEU.
Well, right briefly before we talk about DCEU, I think we got to mention Watchmen because
Yep, there it
technically
is.
is a DC movie, and that has some of my favorite shots in any superhero comic.
Actually, before all right,
We're
just
skipping
before we
over
get into-
Snyder, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it's some. Before we delve into Watchmen, real quick, I will mention Superman Returns does exist.
Yeah, that's Reeves.
The shot of him taking the bullet to the eye.
Yes.
Oh yeah, Brandon Routh. Yeah.
Also, him catching the plane. There's some six, and him holding the car. The homage to Action Comics 1 in that movie. I actually think Superman Returns isn't talked about enough. It's pretty boring, but it's got some cool scenes in there.
I just had a very niche call out to a very niche DC movie. It's animated, but we'll continue with the live action. But when we get the chance, I need to talk about a specific scene.
Well, yeah, there's a lot. There's so many of these films that I just completely forgot about Superman Returns.
Yeah.
And
It's
I will say
it's-
that movie.
It's a universe we haven't talked about. That's why. But
Yeah,
we'll
it's Superman himself. Well, we talked about 78 and Returns being a pretty much sequel.
No,
to
the one that
world.
I just thought of. I was talking about.
Oh no, understood. But yeah, I will say that movie's boring, but there's some really dope
beautiful
Superman stuff in that film. Yeah. Especially him flying in the end and like recharging himself with the sun. That always comes to mind too.
Yeah.
Some great stuff. But yeah, you're right. Let's get to Watchmen because I think it's kind of I wouldn't call it a black sheep, but it's so visually distinct.
It's the
Yeah.
visuals, especially on display in that film, are just absolutely insane. Like, if you watch that movie and you don't enjoy the Dr. Manhattan sequence, you're just wrong. Like that sequence is absolutely so perfect in my opinion. Like he nailed the translation from that.
I'm
from
so
the book.
happy you brought that up. I am
Yeah,
so happy.
that, and then you also have to think of just most stuff with Manhattan in that movie. Him creating his little home on Mars. Like, there's just insane stuff happening. In
Well,
the film.
I would say the way they represented the opening of the story, the comedian getting thrown out of the building. That's maybe the most iconic image of Watchmen.
Yeah.
They nailed it, and obviously I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan in that film.
Well, we as we know, Zack Snyder is a very visual storyteller. So in that regard, he was a great choice for Watchmen. Other regards, some storytelling stuff that he chose to do, I didn't really love, but visually, that movie is really good. Like,
I don't
really, really
understand how
strong.
they're all like so strong. Everyone's getting their bones popped in that film. Like those
Yeah, there's
shots
some
are
weird, some really weird, story choices for the film. But other than that, I really think the visuals are strong.
Well, the last shot I always think of in Watchmen. Well, I think of Manhattan, in Vietnam, which is just insane.
Yeah.
But also Rorschach, when the first time you're kind of seeing him in action. No, I wouldn't say the first time you're seeing him in action, but when I think he's like infiltrating the base or something right before he sees Night Owl. I don't remember exactly where it is in the film, but it's early on. The shot of the lightning with him in the rain
Yeah.
is just absolutely insane.
Also, I don't normally love Snyder's use of slow-mo, but his use of slow-mo in the scene where Rorschach is using the lighter and
On the
the
cops.
hairspray, pretty awesome. It's actually really good use of slow-mo.
Yeah.
And it's a good scene. I would definitely, consider using that.
Yeah,
For sure.
So let's jump to a little further for Snyder and DC. Let's jump to Man of Steel, which is also kind of a Nolan film in a way. I mean, he helped write it. It was a jump from The Dark Knight to Man of Steel. Obviously, they were trying to capture that for Superman.
Yeah, Skolnick, I know you love a lot of the shots in Man of Steel. What would you say is your favorite? Or scenes? I know what my favorite scene is.
It's tough just because I feel like there's so many where it's like I honestly love these 5 scenes and I can just pick out 5 I love. Honestly, I love his fight scene against Zod.
Yeah, it's awesome. Violence and people dying aside.
Yeah, because that's not Superman. But Just a lot of pleasing shots. I mean, even the fucking X-ray. Oh, excuse my language. Especially the X-ray vision scene. I really did like that. I really.
Yeah,
did.
no, and I mean, I think to this day we still have the best Superman flying sequence, which is just his first flight in the film.
Oh yeah.
Which, honestly, visually might be one of my favorite. It is one of my favorite superheroes.
I'd say I always think of that walk that he does, before flying too.
Yeah.
It is shot so interesting, and I think there's like a famous video of Snyder's drawings of the scene before. He captured exactly what he wanted to capture there, and it's just so.
That's what I'm saying. He's a visual storyteller. He
Yeah.
gets the exact shots that he wants to get, but sometimes at a
Sometimes
cost.
yeah, a lot of times.
Sometimes at a cost of not thinking about the story.
I'd say for me, one of my favorite shots just of the character of Superman, and it's from Man of Steel, obviously, is when he's standing under the World Engine. And a lot of people say he looks a lot like Christopher Reeve in this scene. But him just standing there and taking on that power before he takes off into flight. I love that sequence. I just love the look of it. I mean, just the sheer force that he's taking. I think it actually helps represent the character very well in that scene. His resilience. It's definitely a very cool scene, and I do agree. He looks exactly like Reeve in the scene.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff to pick from Man of Steel, especially visually. Say what you want about the story. Now let's move on to what I know is Brandon's favorite DC movie, Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
Hey, okay. Okay, I'm actually pretty passionate of not, saying BVS is a good movie.
I despise it, so
But I am someone who
This is
definitely
on
points
YouTube.
out it has a lot of merit, and the visuals are definitely one of the things I point out. Every time I'm talking to someone about this movie.
Yeah,
There's so many to choose from.
You'll have an amazing shot of literally someone just like diving in the water to fetch some kryptonite, and it's like one of the greatest shots. Like Snyder really thinks with his visual mind, and for even small, just like kind of bridging, kind of gapping scenes, he just insane visuals.
But Skolnick, for what we're trying to get here, what we're trying to capture, the epic moments that make us love these characters. The movie itself, it didn't make us love these characters, but there are certain scenes that I actually rewatch a lot. I think there are certain just snippet shots, of the Trinity in this film.
Oh, is it when Batman kills? Because that scene just didn't do it for me.
No, it's not about that. It's not even about seeing him killing. It's some of the
just
certain visuals you get, especially in that Trinity fight. I will point out the warehouse fight, too. There's some great stuff in there.
Yeah.
But like a specific shot I'd have to point out, when Doomsday and Superman, when their heat vision clashes for the first time,
Yeah.
it looks like a painting. Like it's genuinely one of the most jarring CGI shots in any of these movies.
I agree.
Like comic book films. I think that last fight has so much interesting stuff in it.
Yeah. No, for sure. Again, visually, there's a lot to pick from for Batman v Superman, no doubt.
Well, some of the shots, I'd use for our, what we're trying to get here, are from that fight. The Dark Knight Rises shot or Return shot.
Yeah.
The shot of Wonder Woman showing up is very iconic. The DCU led to disaster, but the DCEU, yes, the DCEU, it led to disaster. We know we're in the age of the DCU now, but this movie is still talked about, and I think a big reason is the visuals, and I think a big reason Justice League got made is because people wanted to see that style continued. I mean, Zack Snyder's Justice League, which I think also has a lot of interesting superhero shots in it. And Brandon, I know you really love that film. Like, is there anything in there you'd pull out, for individual members, of the league?
For Snyder Cut?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's not even talk about Whedon.
I'm not talking about.
Yeah, I don't want. Okay. I want to make sure because there's a lot of shots that are
Nothing
similar.
interesting
Different.
visually that he did.
Yeah,
Honestly-
there's nothing Whedon did visually that helped. So
It's such a. I literally made a custom flag for it that was in my room throughout college. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Superman in front of the Earth. It's one of my backgrounds on my phone too.
I know
Absorbing the
how
sun
much
is
you
one
watch
of
that.
the.
Flight 2.0 is.
It is actually one of the
was
most
very well done.
insane. It's one of the most insane shots we've ever gotten. You literally see
that
Earth
was
lit
cut.
up.
Whedon cut that.
Bro, the lead up to that too, where the door opens and you see the regeneration suit, the black suit for the first
yeah.
time,
Beautiful.
is one of my favorite shots of
Honestly,
the character.
Darkseid's first invasion of Earth, where he's obviously not at full capacity. Like
When he's
Green-
Uxas, yeah, actually pretty
when
sick.
he's Green Lantern showing up, like all the different tribes on Earth, all the different civilizations, like going to fight. Like it actually looked very good. It looked very Snydery. But
It was clear that Snyder wanted the end of his trilogy, whatever you want to call it, of Justice League movies, to end with a similar sequence like that. It was going to be the Justice League fighting in a battle similar to that. It was very clear that's where he wanted it to go. So in a way, that scene is kind of saying, this is how epic it's going to get.
Yeah, and I will say it's brief, but it's pretty epic. Like, the film has a lot going on visually. There's so many characters it's juggling. I think before we move on from Snyder, we have to point out, listen, Ezra Miller, I'm not going to mention him as a person. We're mentioning just the shots here. At the Speed of Sound, I think, is one of the best sequences we ever got in the DC. At the Speed of Force,
Yeah.
thank you. I think it's one of the best sequences we got in the Snyderverse. I just
I mean, it won an Oscar, which is crazy to say. That year didn't really count, but technically did win an Oscar. No, it technically did. So yeah, that scene for sure, and it goes without saying that is probably the best Flash scene we've still gotten in live action, undoubtedly.
Yeah.
It's hopefully going to be beat. I'm not saying it's the greatest thing ever.
Aquaman
but
had
Honestly,
some good-
I'm not bringing up any scenes from the Flash. so-
Aquaman 1 had some good shots. Just
Yeah, no, I was about to say
yeah.
real quick. What do you think about Aquaman or Wonder Woman? Because both
It
of them
just-
had
Wonder
great
Woman had
shots.
some great shots. The issue was with Aquaman is some of the water scenes. Obviously, you have to CGI the entire thing. It's a lot.
But I do think where the CGI works is a lot of the creatures are really cool, and I actually think at the end when he's fighting his brother, pretty cool. Like actually looks really cool.
Yeah, I
does.
think the third act definitely has some cool stuff going on.
Like him riding that Kraken in the battle is like pretty awesome. Like
Yeah.
And I will say, we gotta close out the entire Snyderverse. Like Wonder Woman, yeah,
the trench scene. Let's just
it's the trench scene.
Yeah.
I think it is one of the best done DC film scenes. And I'm not saying anything else about the movie. I'm talking specifically about those few minutes.
really well done.
Outside of the film, just such a great Wonder Woman scene. Not saying anything about the performance of her in it. I'm just saying the action, everything that was represented there specifically, very well done.
For sure.
And it also used the setting in the film too. Like I don't think the rest of the film uses it all that well, but I do like it taking place in World War One. It was
For sure, it had a cool aesthetic for sure.
Yeah, I think Wonder Woman. There's obviously a few other things on Themyscira that are pretty cool shots,
Yeah.
but I think specifically, I always think the trench scene. A lot of people do as well.
Back to
And we're-
Snyder Cut just because I remember
Yeah.
it now, but honestly, Darkseid fighting all of Atlantis was a great scene too underwater.
Just that whole. I mean, it's really brief, but yeah, when you get that mother box sequence of seeing the kind of just 6 shots of Darkseid and like the heroes being defeated, like it's pretty cool.
I can mention so many from that film. I will say like Batman standing on top of I don't know if it's exactly a gargoyle, but the statue when Gordon sees him.
Yeah.
The whole giant sequence underground. There's a lot of great stuff there. There's also a lot of not that great stuff in it, but
Yeah, there
I
is
think,
a lot.
when you're with Snyder again,
Very
he
visual
really
effect.
brings the visuals, and there's a reason I enjoy that universe for what it is.
Yeah.
But I will say DC now, I think feeling more comic booky.
I want
is
to talk about-
where it should be.
I actually really want, before we talk about James Gunn, we cannot not mention the Penguin and the Batman. Like,
Yeah, we were gonna get there. I was actually about to say, yeah, we're gonna agree to skip over the Flash and
it's
Wonder Woman 84. Yeah, those
not
are yeah.
worth
Shazam 2.
Yeah, and Shazam 2. Let's just not talk about those.
Aquaman 2
Um,
is the same thing as we said before.
Oh, and Aquaman too. There's a lot.
And Aquaman 2. There's a
Blue Beetle
few.
as well.
Blue
Yeah, even
Beetle.
Blue Beetle. I mean, honestly, I will say Blue Beetle. We can
Couple
include a
shots.
couple shots of
Yeah,
Blue
couple
Beetle
shots.
because they're really Blue Beetle at least had a fun vibe to it, where I was like,
Yeah.
all right, like they tried something. Wasn't my cup of tea, but I kind of I saw what you were doing there.
And the cast was very passionate, you could tell.
For
about
sure,
it.
for sure.
I'm excited to see him come back. I think there's potential there. I did not love that film, but yeah, there's a few shots of him that were pretty
I
cool.
think casting wise, still really worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. I always believed in that.
Yeah, Jolo
But
was
talking
very
about
good in the role.
the Batman with Pattinson,
The whole movie.
the entire movie is actually insane. Whether
I mean,
it's
'cause
the
you-
flood with the torch,
you
him
know,
on top of in the
You
stadium
have,
fighting,
the
Batmobile.
amazing Greg Fraser actually, as cinematographer on that movie, and it really shows. I mean, that movie is stunning.
I honestly do think it is probably one of the best looking films of the 2020s so far.
Yeah.
And I was really taken back when I first saw it. And it's interesting too because it uses the volume in some areas, but I think they just really understood how to utilize that. But I think Gotham is really, since Burton, has never been represented as well. There is some those cities, I guess the cities they chose to represent it.
Absolute
There's some
cinema.
great images. I always think of Batman. You know, there's a lot of shots of him during the day in the Batman.
Yeah.
There's one with him, you know, when in the dawn, he's looking over the entire city. I think it was actually used in one of the early trailers as well, but it's a great shot.
Honestly, him with all his eyes, what is it? It's not eyeliner, but all the makeup over his eyes, like just tired and short. Like that is such a defining character because that's who Bruce Wayne is supposed to be early into his Batman career. He is so obsessed with justice. He's obsessed with the mission. He's a hermit. Nobody knows what happened to the billionaire playboy. Like what's he?
Yeah,
up
it's
to.
funny you're pointing that out because I was specifically thinking next, like weirdly, there's so many shots, but when he's in the club in his like incognito like drifter outfit and he's just walking through the crowd with you see the eyeliner dripping down his eyes right before he's going to suit up again. There's a lot of interesting stuff. It just him as Bruce in this film. I think of him going into the Batcave, which is also very visually interesting in this film because it's under Wayne Tower.
Yeah.
Some of the choices they made called, these interesting changes they made to, I guess, the lore and how they wanted to represent Batman. There's a lot of interesting visuals you got out of it.
Yeah, and
Him changing his suit into the giant glider or the wingsuit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just they wanted to show, everything being practical to an even further extent than Nolan, which I think makes this Batman so cool. Even though a lot of people do complain, they're like, "Why do we want to see another grounded version?" I think the Batman really just, for me, it just sold me on this world. And the Penguin
Yeah.
even further. You're right. Yeah, there's a lot of shots in there, a lot of moments.
Batman versus Penguin in the
Made me
car
love this
chase
universe.
when he's walking towards
the fire
Penguin
shot.
with the fire behind him is one of the craziest shots we've seen in any Batman movie. Period. Like
Any comic book.
I do want to shout out one shot because I keep trying to think of shots that not everyone tends to think of, especially when the one with rises from before. But there's a shot of Batman in the film right before the sequence where he does the Penguin chase, where he's on a rooftop, and the pan of the camera is just the most Arkham vibes we've ever gotten in a Batman movie. It just really felt like he was about to do a stealth mission, and we were just watching it from that view. I don't know if you guys even know what shot I'm talking about, but it's a shot where
Him on the rooftop
Yeah.
right before the chase.
right before the chase, there's a shot of him on the rooftop of him getting ready
I agree.
to do his thing, and the way the camera pans just really invoked the Arkham series, in my opinion.
Also, think about how they shot that first fight, like him walking out of the shadows in the first fight, and then how that was shot and kind of scored there. Huge Arkham Knight vibes there, but I loved how scrappy that fight was and how they shot it was very different from any I think the Batman better than Nolan captured the fights better because Nolan's very choppy, very quick cut on his fights. Batman definitely felt, he feels even more vulnerable in the Batman because of how they represent him. But I do love how, how ferocious he is in his violence in the Batman. People like to say it's similar, but it's really not to Nolan.
it's not
And
at
I'm
all.
very
I
excited
don't
to
think
see
it's
this.
similar at all.
No, I know. A lot of people just didn't you're right. It's not. But people wanted to see, more like what James Gunn is going to go for, comic booky Batman. We've never really gotten that, and that's fair.
Yeah, we still. I mean, there's been attempts at it. I think Kilmer and Clooney were attempts at a really campy comic book.
But that was kind of more harkening back to the 60s
Exactly.
show
We've
more than the
never
comics.
Truly gotten a version of Batman where he feels truly like the animated series vibes, where he can fight fantastical villains just as well as your run-of-the-mill burglar.
Ben Affleck, we felt like he could fight Superman, but he wasn't a good representation of actual Batman. He was just
Yeah.
the Punisher to an extent in a bat costume.
But
But listen, the Batman being such a great representation of this character, it really does enhance the shots.
before
I love Affleck, the shots we got, but it's
The
not
first
even
shot of Batman in the Batman is absolutely insane. Him coming out of the shadows, he's.
But
the
think
way he's shot in
think
it-
about him leading the crowd out with the light.
Well, it's what I was saying
there are
earlier,
moments that just
with the
that's
flare.
Batman. Exactly. Yeah, there are moments you have to include in this video you're making too. That those are the moments that really show you who this guy is.
we were talking a lot about defining moments of characters, and I feel like this was an unethical one of the character, but it also defined who he would be if this was happening. And I want to bring up the Batman vs. Dracula movie. Random niche call out.
Yeah,
But
love
I
the
do
Batman.
I really want to talk about Joker's scene in the blood bank. Chugging gallons of blood the entire time. And then
That'd
at
be cool
the
for a villain video.
Yeah, that's good for a villain video.
And
That's a
then-
great scene.
and then at the end, when the entire shelf that Bruce obviously has to kick down because he can't even listen, he couldn't even that version of Joker he sometimes couldn't even go toe to toe with because he was so unpredictable. But now that he was enhanced as a vampire, and you see him get covered in blood, and the only thing you see is his eyes and the teeth, and his tongue and nothing else. It's just completely black because how dark the
Great
room is
stuff.
and the blood. It
And
is actually it's chills. Like that
You're
is
making me upset that we didn't mention this show at all. Because I will say from that film as well, I love when he shines the spotlight on Dracula.
yeah.
Great shot of Batman.
It really is. It's
And
and then he
little
go.
bit- I don't know. Kind of arguing there. Does he kill there? I don't know. But awesome.
He can't kill the undead. I'll let it slide.
I think
Okay,
it-
but yeah, let's
I
let's
think
I
jump.
just feel like that in the same vein that that Batman chooses not to kill Ra's al Ghul, so it's like, I don't know. That's just my
Ra's al
opinion.
Ghul's immortal, but this was literally somebody like creating an
undead.
apocalypse.
Truly,
I
he
think
is
it's
undead.
different.
That's fair. That's fair.
You know?
Okay, but anyways, back
Sorry.
to Gunn. Back to the James Gunn era of DC.
The
That's
Suicide
discussed.
Squad. Let's
Yeah,
start
we
off
got to
with
start
the
it with the
hot.
Suicide Squad, which I know you love so much.
Oh my God, Margot Robbie seen as Harley Quinn with Javelin's javelin, is actually one of the most insane scenes in the entire film with the
That's
flowers.
not
and-
talked about enough, too.
It's not, and people don't understand something with Harley Quinn and the Joker. It's like, yeah, they're mentally ill. Like the way they're perceiving what's going around them versus what's actually happening is so cool. How James really does it. She's literally killing people. You see one scene, it's blood coming out of the throat, but then from her point of view, you see flowers everywhere. And I feel like with Harley Quinn, because one, not just all the abuse and neglect she's gone through, but everything else she's done to be like Joker. Mentally, you could tell like this is her POV. Like everything's rainbows and nothing
Yeah.
serious, and
He suppresses
that was
a lot
cool.
of that violent stuff.
Yeah.
No, that's a great scene.
I think when I first saw it, I was, James Gunn, he implemented his style. And this was in a time when we thought it was still DC, connected to those other stuff.
Yeah.
So it was very bizarre when we first saw it. And then, the stuff like that with Harley, it took me back at first. But on rewatches, I really come to appreciate how stylistic the film is. Especially the title cards he uses to, transition the scenes. I love when Starro first enters. That's a great shot. And then it says, Suicide Squad versus Starro the Conqueror. That's a great moment. But I always think of, even the beginning of the film, the beach sequence.
Yeah.
Just jumping from 2016 to that, I had a giant grin on my face immediately. I kind of just got what he was doing.
We all saw it
Not
together
fully,
too.
but I
Remember
just-
that?
Exactly. That's why I'm mentioning it. I remember being next to you, and I was just like, okay, yeah, I can see why they chose Gunn.
Yeah.
His style works so well for that movie, and I do think it's one of the most underrated comic book movies.
No
it
doubt.
actually
Don't think it
aged
is. It's not
so
talked
well.
about enough. It released in a terrible time for movies, but we were there in theaters.
We were there. We got the
we-
comic books that
It
came
released
with
right
it.
on HBO Max. I mean,
Yes,
that's
and it came out on HBO Max, but
most
we
people
still.
did not go to theaters for this.
I went to theaters for it because I was very excited to see what he would do with DC, and I'm very happy with where it has led.
Yeah.
I'm happy that film still kind of means something, to be honest.
Yeah. It
Oh,
does.
100%. I still think that is one of the best films we've gotten in a very long time, just because of how James Gunn really shows he understands these characters. I mean,
And
yeah, some of them
also,
are
he
no-names.
clearly loves his R-rated content, and
No, he does.
for Peacemaker as well. Like, he lends very well to that. His humor lends very well to more inappropriate stuff. I
Yeah.
think he has a harder time writing his style of humor, especially for his more PG-13
Do you know what-
projects. Even though the Guardian stuff is pretty great.
No, one thing with James Gunn I want to point out, he is so smart with his niche songs that make the scenes significantly better. Like we have all these defining shots of these characters, that
great
really
at picking
define what a
out
villain
music.
is and what a hero is, but he really does these scenes. And I'm gonna bring up, Peacemaker episode 1, like Love Bomb being, Love Bomb Baby being a song was crazy to me. Him going into episode 5 with the butterfly invasion and Monster playing in the back.
I
the
mean,
entire-
I honestly he might have became a filmmaker just to flex his playlist.
yeah,
Like,
he
like
really-
he's going crazy on it. Like I feel like every single project that he does has an iconic song, or at least a song. It would either be a really famous song that people have forgotten about, or a song that no one knows about that he puts some light onto, which is
And
also really.
it
cool.
reminds me. I'm not trying to drag in the Gen V, but the ending of the one scene where the ending of the show after what's her name blew off the girl's head and Heads Will Roll started playing immediately after. I was like, wow, that just made that scene even better. Like his music taste makes his films so much better, but they don't they're already good. It just I don't know. It's just a play on play.
It's
that he
the
does.
it's the icing on
genius.
the or the cherry on top of the pie. Like he really knows what he's doing when it comes to music.
Yeah, I honestly, finishing out the Suicide Squad, but there's so much, actually really cool comic book shots in it. But the shot of them walking through the rain
Yeah, it's awesome.
needs to be talked about, especially when it ends with Rick Flag shooting that guy's chest open.
I mean, and King Shark ripping a guy in half.
And yeah, and then of course King Shark, which is just probably the best shot of that movie. You know,
Yeah.
CG wise, it probably is. It's really metal. But yeah, I think
I
that
don't
I loved that movie. I think
No,
it needs to be talked
when
about
they
more.
did after the breakout of the Brinks truck and it was in flames, like Jotunheim.
Well, that's a great shot too. When I say yeah, Mission Harley, you
Or
know,
how
like,
about that's what it was. Or how about the one where it was all the I don't know what it would be called, but it was like kind of it almost it was the stuff on top of the ceiling in the favela, like their version of a favela, and it said Jotunheim with all the
yeah, I
like
was
the
saying before, I really love those title cards he put in the film.
yeah he.
I think
those
it
shots were great.
that
I
often
liked
doesn't
King
work for me,
Shark
but I
with the
actually
little
think it works.
fish too. King Shark in the aquarium with the fish was actually a
Yeah,
good
I
thing.
honestly, it really made me feel for that character. It's interesting how he represented him.
Well, King Shark is dumb in a lot of
No, sure, yeah. I just I like him not being dumb, but I like the version they put in. But it's is that King Shark going forward in the DCU? I'd assume probably.
Yeah, I hope so. I'd love to see Sylvester Stallone come back to voice him.
Sylvester, I always forget it's Sylvester Stallone.
But-
Okay, but yeah, I feel like let's finish with Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's delve into Peacemaker season 1 and 2 a little bit more. I think one of my favorite shots from the series, which isn't an epic superhero shot of it, anyone in costume or anything like that.
when he killed his brother, that's my favorite scene.
Oh yeah, that's yeah. But I'm saying visually.
Oh, that sounded awful.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, sure. You
I
can
don't
say
know
that's
about
one of the
visually,
best scenes, but yeah, visually, yeah, it's not probably one of the
Not
best. in
visually,
itself.
but I just do you see the pain in his eyes as a character?
No, for sure, it's
And-
very well acted.
And then when you go back to current times and you realize everything you've just watched throughout the season, it's like, wow, this character wants peace. And then based on his child trauma and his trauma with his dad, is like he wants nothing to be like them and like the person he used to be. And that's
Yeah.
why he's changing throughout the
But
show.
I
And
love,
also
I love the whole show and how it explores, his relationship with his father. I kind of love how the first season ends with that shot of, him, Goff, Eagly like flies away, but then he just looks next to him and his dad's there.
Yeah.
And it just contextualizes that whole first season so well. And it honestly, where we're in season 2, we know he has trauma from his father. I love the storyline they've taken us on in season 2.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's gonna make for some crazy stuff in the next. We're going into episode 7 now. At the time of recording this, I think we're gonna see some crazy action. Him against his father again, possibly. There was a lot of interesting stuff. His father was a crazy character, but there was obviously some interesting stuff with the what was it? Red. What's going on? Is it Red Dragon?
no, in theirs it's Blue Dragon.
But the new one's Blue Dragon, yeah. But in season 1,
White
it's Red
Dragon.
White Dragon.
White Dragon, yeah.
Yeah, there's obviously, there's some interesting stuff with them fighting. I think, obviously the final fight, the butterfly was very interesting. I always think of the shot of Adebayo flying into
Oh,
the
the cow,
butterfly.
the cow.
Or the cow, yeah. The giant butterfly.
Yeah, the cow and
Where
the
the
suit,
food
and you
source
have the Snyder cut all there, which was insane. That was crazy.
Yeah, them actually being there was
I will
pretty
say,
wild.
yeah, when season 1 aired and we saw the Justice League, I think we were all going nuts.
We watched it at the same time and we called each
Exactly,
other
that's what
after.
I'm
Yeah, and then when season 2 began, we were eagerly waiting to see how they would either retcon that or what.
For the record, I will say I like how they're doing it because, yeah, James Gunn isn't concerned with going back to the DCEU.
Yeah,
He
he's
wants
just
to
not.
move away from it. I've always said this. I really do like how he's handled it so
Yeah.
far.
Yeah,
I've
I
said
agree.
my criticisms
He's not
about it.
concerned with them crossing over in some multiversal event or something. They're not coming back. The DCU is done.
The DCU does not exist in
Yeah.
the DC. The DCEU multiverse doesn't exist in the new multiverse. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? It's like
100%.
that. It just doesn't exist. It's not
Agreed.
a thing.
Agreed. But what does exist in the new multiverse is Superman, and that had a lot of great shots. I actually really think he really tapped into a place that he'd never really been before because he was dealing with a character
Yeah.
as epic as Superman.
He said it. It's his first true comic book movie, and I think I'd say it's his most comic booky film he's ever done. A lot of the visuals were on point.
Yeah.
So, Brandon, what really springs to mind when you think of 2025 Superman?
I'm thinking of a couple scenes actually. I think of him and Lois at the end when he's picking her up.
Yeah,
That's just such a defining moment for both the characters. But I really think about the
never gotten a shot like that really before.
never, and I really think the falling building scene with him in the smoke. That is the symbol
Yeah.
of hope. When you see his silhouette, that is the building.
I
mean,
love
out of the building,
the-
that is the symbol of hope.
I just love how that scene was done. Like her looking back to make sure like he's okay in a way.
Yeah, and then
It's
you see him
kind of just
arise.
amazing, and then seeing him rise out of it. That actress, whoever that is, she nailed that.
Yeah,
That's gonna stick with me for a long time because I think moments like that really made this, I'd say, the most memorable comic book movie of the year.
him seeing that Ultraman was him, like his heart dropping, was another.
Well, you're
defining
saying
scene
that
right
scene.
there.
There's actually one particular point of their fight that I love so much, where he finally gains control in the fight.
Yeah.
And then he picks up, I think it's like the top of a tank or something, and he just like whacks him with it. And it's such a cool shot of Superman.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, he's finally tapping in and using his full powers here. Like, he can fight now.
Well,
It's
even-
awesome.
But I will say, going back to the beginning of the film, I love him, flying over the Arctic waters.
Yeah.
The Fortress of Solitude showing up for the
Fortress of
first time
Solitude
was
coming-
amazing.
yeah, just showing up, this looks great.
Yeah, just like I think that might be one of my new favorite shots of Superman, though. Just seeing him fly like that.
Over the water.
It was very different from Snyder, but I will say, both have their merit for the flying stuff. But I was happy that he was represented a little differently. I like exploring new ways to show him fly.
Also love the shot of him saving the squirrel.
Yeah, I was about to point that out too. I wanted to point out something from the kaiju fight, and that would be it, 100%. But yeah, even the other heroes, they're right. Like, think about the terrific fight. This is the first time we're seeing this character really represented so well
Very well.
Yeah.
since the DCAU. Amazing job. I even said it before in this video. Guy Gardner, very cool. I mean, I had my doubts about Nathan Fillion doing it, but I think he understood the assignment. And Gunn, obviously, that sequence where he shows up and saves that kid at the end. That was a very fun sequence, and I'm excited to see what he does in Lanterns because of it.
Yeah.
I think very bright future going forward. And Skona, I guess, what are you really expecting to see? If you had for the next 2 episodes of Peacemaker, even like, what do you want to see visually?
Oh man. Wow. I want to see Peacemaker have a redefining scene internally, and I don't want it to be him killing his father. I actually want him to kill Keith. And
I
you think that
might happen too.
Yeah.
I think
that
that's
is
what's
very-
going to happen because he finally has a brother that he killed as a kid and he has to kill him as an adult, but it's not his brother. It's what he never got to see, and he's going to have to destroy it. And I think
That would make for
Vigilante's going to kill Blue Dragon, or it's going to be Economos. Nobody else.
Yeah. I mean, that would make for a pretty poetic ending, no doubt.
And and it sounds messy. Someone's like, "Oh, I want to see someone get killed at a show." It's like, I just think it would bring so much character development, and it would be actually insane. Because Peacemaker's going to do the one thing he doesn't want to do. He killed his brother accidentally as a kid. He regrets it forever. He finally has him. And now this is not the brother in the perfect world he dreamed of. And they're actually going to hurt the people that mean to him the most. And he's going to have to pick this alternate family that he's always wanted to have.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, actually, he might not have a choice because...
But I
Economos
agree. I think it's
rats
a
out.
great. I think it's a great way because for this series, I think it's because where they're going with it, him having to accept the family he has, not even have to this is what the season is. It's really him accepting that he does have a family. Back on the world, it wasn't all bad. Yeah, I think it'd be very interesting for them to go the Peacemaker type route with that, and he accepts that he has to kill his family once again. I'm with you. I would really like to see that, and I think.
It sounds messed up, but...
It
at the end
does,
of the
yeah.
day-
That's what I was gonna say too. It does, but
I mean, his family aren't the best people.
where we're taking this character, I don't think we should pull punches, and say, he deserves this, he deserves that. Like, we started Peacemaker knowing he's extremely flawed,
Yeah.
and knowing he's not the greatest guy. And yes, season 1 did bring him on a journey to become a better person, but I still like, the fact that we could really delve into the fact that he's extremely flawed. He's gonna have to make a very dark choice here.
That's very true. I think that's exactly where we're headed. I mean, gentlemen, I think we have really gotten some great stuff. I mean, we've discussed a lot about DC, and I think we really pulled some great moments from these movies. I mean, shows. You name
It became just us, talking about just our favorite moments in DC. But I'm very excited to see visually where this universe goes. James Gunn's universe, and Matt Reeves, of course.
Yeah. Well, forgive me, Ryan. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll catch you guys next time.